sixth graders. So part of your homework was to read chapter 8 and chapter 9 and also complete the chart for the character chart for Caleb and Styx. So because there's no audio recording for chapter 8 and 9, I'm going to do it myself. And so here we go. Chapter 8, The Great Escalator Trade. On Thursday at noon, we met Styx Malone in the woods behind our house. We found him leaning against the same shagbark hickory tree under which we'd met him. By the time the summer was out, we'd be thinking of it as Styx's office. I wanted to kick back against a tree and just be. Styx made it look so easy. "Well, if it isn't Caleb and Bobby Jean Franklin," he said, as if we had just happened by. He pushed off the trunk and ambled toward us. His arms hung lanky by his sides. I shook out my shoulders to relax them, like his. "How's it going with Cormier?" Styx asked. "He giving you any more trouble?" "Not so far," I said. "He's ready for a payday for sure." "You've got something good going here," Styx said. "Let's step it up a notch." "You mean like us together?" Bobby Jean asked. "Sure," Styx shrugged. "The deal was for me to help you." He gripped a low horizontal branch, then swung himself around it like a hinge. "You really think we can sell all these fireworks?" Bobby Jean's questions were bringing me down. It was easy to believe everything Styx promised until he started trying to think it through. "Not only can we sell them, we can sell them all at once." Styx leaned over the branch. His scrawny stomach bowed up right over it, and his sharp black elbows pointed down toward us like punctuation marks. "Listen," he said, "I'm going to tell you how it is." We listened. How could we not? Before meeting Styx, our best story was about the time Bo Hopkins, the Pacers' power forward, rode through town on his way to some charity event. All us neighborhood kids lined up along the side of the street to wave to him. We thought it was going to be like a parade. When his car blew by, we waved and all, but he never rolled down the tinted windows, so all we saw was limo. But his license plate said Bo Hop, which we did get a pretty good look at, and it had remained at the top of our coolness index right up until today. "This is how it is," Styx continued. "People have stuff. Sometimes they have stuff that you want, so you gotta take it." "That's stealing," Bobby Jean said. Styx shrugged. "I'm not trying to teach you morality. I'm telling you how it is." "We don't steal," I said. "You're currently stealing my thunder," Styx said. "I'm trying to tell you how it is." "Oh, sorry." We waited. We listened. "You don't have to steal to get stuff free, you know," he said finally. "You just gotta learn how to make people give you things." Well, that sounded nice enough. You ever hear about the guy who turned a paperclip into a house? We hadn't. So Styx spun us a fabulous yarn. It went like this. Once there was a guy who wanted to see how much he could get in exchange for nothing. So he asked a friend if he could have a paperclip. The friend gave him the paperclip for free because it wasn't worth much. No big deal, right? Then the guy took the paperclip and went to a different friend. He asked that friend if he'd be willing to trade him a cheap ballpoint pen in exchange for the paperclip. Now, a ballpoint pen is slightly more valuable than a paperclip, but it's still not worth very much money in the grand scheme of things. So the friend agreed. The guy kept doing this. He took the cheap ballpoint pen and traded it for a roll of Scotch tape, and then a pair of scissors, and then a stapler. He climbed his way through small office supplies until he was trading a paper shredder for a laser printer. Thus, the concept of the great escalator trade was born. The guy took his laser printer and started exchanging for other kinds of electronics until he traded his way into a brand new laptop computer. Every trade he made was for something of approximately equal value. It wasn't very unfair to any of the individuals he was trading with, but all along he was trading for something worth slightly more than the last thing. It took a long time, but eventually he traded the laptop until he got a fancy sound system. Then he traded that for a used car, for a boat, for a newer car, and so on. Eventually, he was able to trade a big fancy yacht for a mansion. And all because one day, years before, he'd asked a friend for a paperclip. Thus, he proved that great escalator trade was possible and profitable. Then, he lived happily ever after in his mansion. When Styx finished the story, Bobby Jean and I stood slack-jawed. My imagination lit up like a Christmas tree, glowing with all the possibilities. An escalator trade is pretty simple, Styx assured us. You just have to figure out what you want. That's worth all the trouble. Not to be ordinary, I thought. To see the world. But Styx was talking about the sort of stuff you could buy. Something big, Styx said. What's the dream? You know, what do you want? Truth be told, there were plenty of things we wanted. The really big super soakers, better spy equipment, the life-size Lego castle, a trip to Mars, a PlayStation. Bigger squirt guns, Bobby Jean suggested. He and I were on the same page, sort of. It's gotta be better than the fireworks, though, I said. Right? Styx nodded. Unlimited Lego pieces for life. Occasionally, Bobby Jean showed signs of true vision. Better, Styx said, but maybe even bigger. Bobby Jean and I exchanged a glance. We know, we blurted simultaneously. Styx raised an eyebrow. Yeah? A swimming pool, Bobby Jean exclaimed, for our backyard. Styx stroked his chin. That's a good one. It actually might be too big, though. Hard to hide a swimming pool. We don't want to hide it. We want to use it, Bobby Jean argued. I nudged him. He means from Mom and Dad, you goof. Yeah, Styx said. The day a giant swimming pool shows up in your backyard, suddenly you've got a lot of explaining to do. I guess, said Bobby Jean. It's also hard to take care of a swimming pool, Styx said. Did you know that? I nodded. That's what Dad always tells us. Too much work and too expensive. Your father's a very practical man. No, we need something stealthier than a pool. We thought about it for a time. I've got an idea, Styx said finally, if you're willing to entertain suggestions. Oh, sure. I cocked my head casually. Well, we can entertain that. I'd rather show you than tell you, Styx said. You know, like a presentation. Real professional. Bobby Jean and I glanced at each other. Why not? It's not far, Styx said. You game? He pushed off the branch and kept moving, as if our following was a foregone conclusion. Bobby Jean grabbed my arm and whispered, We have to tell Mom if we're leaving the yard. Only if we're by ourselves, I argued. We're with Styx. That was iffy logic, but Bobby Jean didn't fight me on it. We're way past the yard now anyway, I said. Sure enough, we were already walking, stretching ourselves to keep pace with Styx's long-legged stride. Nothing could have stopped me from following Styx. If we pulled off a successful escalator trade of our own, we'd be famous, for sure. Beyond famous. We'd be epic, legendary. We'd leave ordinary in our dust. Chapter 9. The Grasshopper. Not far to Styx meant walking all the way downtown. Where are we going? Bobby Jean asked for about the dozenth time. We were long past the point of no return. We were definitely supposed to tell Mom before we went this far. Let me show you, Styx said. Like I said, coolest thing ever. The familiar route felt brand new with Styx along. I studied him closely. The way he moved, sliding through the world like the air around him was greased. The way he talked, like everything he wanted was a foregone conclusion. The way he thought all things were possible. It was only a matter of planning and time. He came from somewhere outside the small world Bobby Jean and I occupied. When we were with him, I could almost touch that place too. Styx made me hungry for something I didn't know how to name. We walked along Vine Street, past a bunch of downtown houses. The gas station, the funeral home, the dentist's office, and the bold blocky sign that said, Rand McNally, CPA. Not the Atlas guy, Bobby Jean and I said in unison as we passed, like we always did. We slapped the corners of the sign for good luck, like we always did. Styx looked at us funny, which was a little embarrassing, but there was no way around our traditions. Mom kept a Rand McNally road atlas in the back of her car seat, so we had to stare at it any time we drove anywhere. We turned on Main and strolled past the scoop shop, the diner, the post office, the bookstore, the record shop turned CD shop turned vintage everything shop. The sign still read Cosmo Vinyl, but the only things vinyl inside were a couple of red-top bar stools and some glued-down records decorating the walls. Here, Styx stopped in front of Neville's, the hardware store, his voice hushed reverently. Behold! All my air caught in my lungs. Bobby Jean blew out an awe-filled breath. Behind the big glass windows, on a narrow wooden stage, stood the prize to end all prizes. It looked like a giant grasshopper. Green head, thorax, abdomen, crisp candy shell, handlebars feeling outward like antenna. Red, gold, and violet flames shot out from the sides of the engine, slicked back in paint along the thorax. A giant grasshopper with fire powers. Gold letters embossed on the abdomen read S375-681W. Holy! Bobby Jean whispered. Moly! I finished. The moped shined on its pedestal, glowing like a beacon, especially compared to the display of paint cans on one side and gardening tools on the other. It was too glorious for its surroundings. A truly unordinary sight. Styx Malone laid his hand on the glass like a prophet. The S375 is as good as it gets. This, my friends, is the stuff of legends. I pictured myself zooming up a long striped ramp, soaring through a circle of flames, bouncing to a finish surrounded by the cheers of a massive crowd. Oh yeah, I said. What are we supposed to do with that? Bobby Jean asked. His practicality was cramping our style. Styx said, ride like the wind. Let's take a closer look, Styx said. The door chimes tinkled as we trooped inside. The guy behind the counter glanced up from stacking light bulbs. He nodded to us like we were old friends, then resumed stacking. The flaming grasshopper was even more attractive without the glass glare blocking our view. This is gonna be ours, Styx told us, patting the moped's black seat. Stick with me, and you'll see. I don't know, Bobby Jean said. What will we ever do with a moped? Haven't you ever wanted to ride with the wind in your hair? Styx asked. None of the three of us had much hair. Mom kept us shorn pretty tight, and Styx had edges so sharp they could cut like razors. But that didn't matter. Yeah, I said, imagining riding with the wind against my scalp, imagining us going, gone, beyond Sutton, to Indy, Chicago, and the Great Wild West on a road that stretched 1,000 miles, a smooth glide into infinity. The moped's green paint gleamed, and the flame's gold accents sparkled with splashes of sunshine. It promised power, freedom, speed, adventure, all for the low price of $499.95. My fantasy clunked to a halt. Where are we going to get $499? Bobby Jean asked. And 95 cents, I added, plus tax. Simple. We trade the fireworks for the moped. Styx made it sound real easy. Are they worth that much? I asked. Styx smoothed the handlebars. Close enough to trade into it. Trust me. Our very own great escalator trade. Amazing. You can't just trade for stuff in a real store, Bobby Jean said. We can trade for this, Styx assured us. You think a hardware store sells mopeds on the level? Yeah, what's it doing here? I asked. It belonged to the owner's son. The clerk's voice reached us from all the way across the store. But he's got himself a Harley now. Too bad we can't drive, Bobby Jean said. I can, Styx assured us. I'm 16. Well, I've got a license. Whoa, I said. Styx shrugged a shoulder. The last place I stayed, they had a car they let me use sometimes. Where was that? Bobby Jean asked. Styx, of course, didn't answer. We wandered back toward home, two of us feeling a bit shell-shocked. We stepped easy, riffing with Styx about our new plan. I felt lighter but stronger, overshadowed by Styx, for sure, but in his presence all things felt possible. Bobby Jean couldn't stop grinning. He stopped harping on how long it would take to get home. We were smooth, as if we could already taste the glory that the grasshopper would bring once it was ours. It was the middle of the afternoon. We were way out of bounds, and technically delinquent. It felt amazing. Alrighty, so we will be ready to read chapter 10 on our next class. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.